Hello, welcome back or welcome to my channel. It is Sunshine Lorena. So guys, it is the 1st of December. Like, I cannot believe it that we're in December, which is like my favorite month in the whole year, I think, because I love Christmas. So yes, we have one month left of the year. We're gonna wrap up all the books that I read in November for you guys. I read 6 of them, and I actually picked up quite a few physical books off my shelf this month. Normally it's like a lot of Kindle books, audiobooks, and maybe like 1 physical book, but actually I have 4 here that were physical ones. I read a total of 6 books across the month, so we did well. I feel like I didn't read as much this month, and I think it's because, and you'll see when I go through the books, quite a few of these were on the chunkier side, so some were just over 500 or some were like just under 500, at least like half of these books, so it was a chunkier month. So it doesn't feel like I read as much because I don't feel like I read as many books, but there were longer ones this month. So anyway, let's just get into it because I'm rambling on at this point. So the first book that I read this month, and actually there is a vlog up on my channel, so I will link, so go and check it out if you haven't seen it, and that is White Teeth by Zadie Smith, and this is one of my self-destruct books. I did a video back in February of 10 books that were self-destruct if I don't read them, as in I'll have to unhaul them, and this was the very first one I picked up, guys, so I'm doing so well, so very well on this goal. So yes, I actually read it and I finished it. I ended up giving this 3 stars. So this was Zadie Smith's debut novel. It came out like early 2000s, so this is like, it was a long time ago, and it has been on my shelf a long time, not since like 2000, but you know, it has been several years that it was sat on there. But in this one, what it said in the back, there was 3 different families. It's a few across a couple of generations. You see their different lives, that you're getting to see in multicultural Britain, and there's like a rat involved. That's basically what it said on the back. Maybe I should actually read it so that makes sense, and then I'll explain. So it has friendship, love, war, 3 cultures and 3 families over 3 generations, 1 brown mouse, and the tricky way the past has of coming back and biting you on the ankle. It's life of farming. Writers must read it. So that's what it said in the back. So I really didn't know that much going into this. First of all, that 3rd family come in to the story way after 50%, okay? So they're not that big a part of it. They are involved in the storyline towards the end, and I'm not going to say anything because, you know, spoilers, but they are not involved in this for a large part of it. And to be honest with you, I just felt like they were unnecessary in this, personally. Like, I didn't enjoy that family, but anyway. What's interesting about this, you have a few different parts and you get different chapter sections following different characters. So you start with like the parents, the 2 fathers of the first 2 families who are throughout this whole thing, how they met in World War II, and that's where it starts, and then they meet their wives, and there's this whole thing, and you go through like their stories. Archie is white British, but he ends up marrying Clara, who has Jamaican heritage, and then Samad, who is Bengali. So you have like these different cultures mixing. It starts, obviously you see their story starting during World War II, but you go throughout the ages. You have like the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. You're following like the story, and you end up following the children's story, etc. For a large part of this book, honestly, I just felt like I'm reading it, you know, you get to know the characters. I didn't fully connect with certain characters. Some I felt like their voice just disappeared off the page, and I would have loved to have heard more from them. So, you know, I feel like we didn't get enough of all the characters that we could have. Yeah, so, you know, basically it's a debut, and you know, she did write the characters well, etc. And I would definitely check out other books from her, but this one for me was just, it was fine, it was good, it was 3 stars, it was, you know, written well, but there's just those elements missing for me, like, and that connection with the characters. But yes, you can go watch the vlog if you want to see my whole thoughts in the moment. So during this month I took part in Marathon. Again, I have a vlog, go and watch it, check it out if you want to. And then I read a few books for it. So the first one I read was a Kindle Unlimited book, and I'm really loving the Kindle Unlimited books. This was one of the cute romances, not a spicy one, guys, and it was A Pumpkin and a Patch by Jennifer Peel, and this was just really cute. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. It's really cute. It was like very of the season moment, you know, because it was just after, because it was set around kind of autumn. I mean, character is Josie, and her family have a pumpkin patch farm. Like they have a farm, but they do a pumpkin patch around Halloween, and she helps out on the weekends. But she's a teacher at this like private school, and yeah, so it's like small town vibes. And then our second main character is Reese, and they went to high school together, and the first time she sees him again is when she is going through litigation with her solicitor. Reese is also a solicitor, but for her ex-fiance, because he broke up with her, and you know, they paid deposit, etc. So they're just like sorting out stuff. And it turns out that her ex-fiance, guys, you find this out in the first chapter, so I'm not spoiling it. Turns out, not only did he like break up with her and like leave her, it turns out that he, classic, was cheating on her with his secretary, and then he's gonna be marrying her. So yeah, classic. But you don't get that much of that side of things. You do see like a little bit, but you know, that's not the main thing. Anyway, that's how they meet again. Now, she is highly embarrassed to see him, and it's because when she was in high school, she wrote this kind of smutty book, basically, like, and it was just supposed to be for her, and her brother released it on the internet, and this is how everyone knows about it. But it was set around like this pirate girl who's obviously hurt. She really liked Reese, and Reese has a patch, okay, because you do find out the story during the book, but he has a patch because he has one eye, and like I said, you do actually find out the whole thing behind that during the book. So she does like a Pirates of the Caribbean themed smut book where her and him are the characters, and her brother released it on the internet and basically ruined her life because people kept laughing at her in her entire like life. Everyone knows about this, so she's highly embarrassed to see him again. But obviously fate has other ideas, and it turns out that his daughter is starting at her school, and she is his daughter's teacher, and she really just doesn't want to like engage with him, speak to him, because she's embarrassed, and like she's like, no, we're not gonna be friends. And it's romance, so you can work out kind of what happens, but I really enjoyed it. I liked the chemistry between them, and it was unusual with the things that happened, but yes, this was fun. The next one I picked up for Girl Marathon was The Stand-In by Lily Chu. Now I listened to this on audiobook from Audible, and I really enjoyed this, okay? So when I read this synopsis, I was like, this is giving me a little bit of Lizzie McGuire movie vibes, okay? And who doesn't love the Lizzie McGuire movie? At least if you were my generation, you watched it at the time, just perfect. So I ended up giving this 4 stars, and I'm gonna go to the synopsis now. And from me comparing it to Lizzie McGuire movie, you must realise that it involves doppelgangers impersonating a famous person, obviously, and that's what you get from this. Obviously, it's not like exactly like Lizzie McGuire, because it's not set in Rome, first of all, it's in Canada, and it's a bit of a different vibe. It's a bit of a different kind of plot, but like it just gave me those little Liz McGuire vibes, and I was like, I'm here for it. I am here for it. So Gracie's friendly boss ends up firing her basically, and she's out of a job. Her mum has Alzheimer's, is in a care home, but she's wanted to get into this other one that's more expensive. She wants to pay for a private room. So you know, she's in this money situation where she unexpectedly lost her job. They could call her up to have a place for her mum at any point to get in this care home, and she needs to have the money because you have to pay within like 6 hours, and then they have to go down the list because it's so popular. But you know, she's healthy, she's single, but you know, she has to try and figure out like what she's going to do with her life. Anyway, a mysterious SUV turns up, obviously, outside like her door, or like, you know, she was being followed. Weird, I know. Anyway, it turns out inside of that SUV is Chinese golden couple Wei Fang Li and Sam Yao, and Wei Fang Li looks very similar to Gracie, and essentially she comes up with this, she's asking her for a proposition, like, I will hire you for a few months to impersonate me at events because she's there for work in Canada. So, but as part of that, she has to go out, and she just isn't up to it. She's going through her own stuff, and she basically, you know, it's like, look, I will pay you, and it's a lot of money, and Gracie ends up accepting because like, how can she turn down that money? So it means that she has to go to events with Sam Yao, and he is very difficult. It's been very difficult for her to work with him, etc. But she, you know, she's going through this impersonating, and you know, she's having to move through this luxurious world that she's never had to deal with before. And I don't want to say anything more than that, but I really enjoyed it. Okay, it's a romance, in case you didn't guess. So I think you can see where it's gonna go. However, I have to say that there's a twist, surprise, like at the end, that I didn't see coming. Like I was like, oh, this was, you know, there's something, and yeah, like I didn't see it coming, and I think that was really nice. Because I find a lot of the time with romance books, you know where it's going, okay? But it's like the build up, the enjoyment of seeing the relationship between them, obviously, and that's why we read it. But it's nice to have that surprise element of another part of the storyline come up. and I'm not going to say any more on that, but recommend, guys, recommend. I then read The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutcherson, and this was for Chloe Reads Books, Chloe's Crime Scene Corner book club pick, and this is #1 in the collector. Again, I read this from Kindle Unlimited, but I think it's also on Scribd as an audiobook. So it is a series of books, and I'm intrigued to read the next one just to see where it's going, and how it kind of links together. But I ended up giving this 4 stars. I did find it creepy, a bit of a different element, and it was actually a really fast read. So there is an isolated mansion and there is this beautiful garden. You know, there are beautiful trees, flowers, etc, whatever. And there's also a collection of precious butterflies. It's young women who have been kidnapped and tattooed to resemble their namesakes, these like butterflies. Overseeing all, there is the gardener, who is a brutal, twisted man obsessed with capturing and preserving his lovely specimens. The garden is discovered by the FBI, and a survivor is brought in for questioning by the FBI. So yeah, they're, you know, the FBI are trying to piece together the story of what actually happened and what was going on in this place. But the girl herself is also a bit of a puzzle of what's going on. So she is revealing the story, her own story. You go along with these twists and turns trying to work out what happened and what was going on, and as well of the other survivors, you know, if there was any, what happened basically. Yeah, I don't want to say too much more than that. I think what brought it down for me slightly was one of the surprise elements at the end, because it didn't really fit or make sense to me, and I can't say much more than revealing it. This is the thriller type book, in case you didn't guess, so I don't want to say to ruin it, anything to ruin it, but I still give it 4 stars because I did enjoy it. From the synopsis of the second one, it seems like it's months after this one happened, you know, the detectives, and you're following the detectives again on another story, but it gives the hint that you might see some of the fallout of what happened with the garden, and like the continuation of a little bit of that. That's why I want to read the second one, to see if that is the case, just to find out a little bit more. So at some point I will read it. I then picked up another self-destruct book, guys. I was on a roll in November, guys, on a roll, and that was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. Now this vlog is up on my channel. I posted this, well, I'm filming this on the 1st, so this is going to go up on Sunday, so it would be almost a week that it's been up. So if you've not seen it, go and check it out and see all my thoughts. That'd be really greatly and highly appreciated. So yes, this has been on my shelf again for years. I did attempt to read it quite a few years ago, but it was like at the start when I was kind of slumping, it just was the wrong book. This is a thriller. There is a lot of mystery vibes, and I feel like that first chunk of this was more mystery than thriller, but you do get those darker elements coming in. Stieg Larsson is a Scandinavian author. He wrote the original Millennium trilogy. There's 3 books obviously, and then someone else, and I can't remember his name, has continued on the series of like with the characters, the kind of main characters are following through this. I don't know if it is as good, but I'm definitely going to focus and read the original trilogy, and I don't think I'm kind of blocking it, but I have the other 2 there to read. But yes, I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4.5 stars. Didn't quite hit the 5-star mark, but I feel like there was a lot of build up in this, and I feel like in the second and third one he's really going to hit his element, and there is potential for 5 stars there. But yeah, there is a lot of setup in this, because obviously he was planning to write a trilogy, so you're getting a lot of background information on Lisbeth, who's the girl with the dragon tattoo, and then also Mikael Blomfirst, which is a journalist. They're going to continue on throughout the series, I believe, so you're getting a lot of their backstory and build up, which is why I didn't quite hit the 5 stars, because like, you know, there was a lot of past stuff being brought up. But anyway, so we obviously have Elizabeth. She is a computer genius hacker, and she's like, I mean, you never really know what her job is fully from this, but she like investigates people, things, she gets assigned tasks, and she's just this expert hacker that can break in, and like she can find out every single detail about your life, guys. So she's really good, and she just doesn't kind of let any restrictions be applied upon her. She doesn't, you know, by individual societal laws. She is her own person, okay? She will do what she basically. And then we have Mikael Blomfirst, who, like I said, is a journalist for Millennium, oddly enough. And, you know, he is a bit of a, I don't want to say disgraced journalist, because that's not really the description. But when it starts off, it's like he had to go to trial because his story, like he was being sued for doing an art false information, basically. And that plays in a large part into the story. I'm not going to go into much details, but you do get that throughout this as well. So he ends up being hired by Henrik Wagner. He is to solve this mystery where I can't remember what relation she is to him, but Harriet, because guys, it's a big family and I can't remember all the connections, but Harriet, when she was 16, went missing, and it was about 30 or 40 years ago, and he just wants one last attempt. It's an unsolved case, they don't know what happened, and he's convinced that a family member murdered her. So for one last attempt, he hires Mikael Blomkvist to find out what happened to Harriet. Harry Wagner, like I said, the family, that they have Wagner Corporation, they're a really big family, they're rich, you know, and he's sure that somebody was out to kind of hurt him by killing Harriet. So that's kind of the mystery we get, and then yeah, don't say any more than that, but I really enjoyed this, and I cannot wait to get to the next two, and I promise it's not going to take me as long as it took me to pick up this one, because I do want to get back to these characters because I did enjoy it. I then picked up Barack Obama's Dreams from My Father. Again, this has been on my shelves for a long time, guys, and it was one of my self-destruct books. See, I mean, on such a roll, like literally didn't pick any up for several months, and then, you know, November was the month, guys. So I read this, and I also listened to the audiobook from my library as well at the same time, which he narrates, which is, I really enjoy when people narrate their own stories, because you do get that emotion from them because it is their story. This was written long before he became president, and you get quite a true telling of him going through discovering who he was, who his father was, his heritage. You get bits of his childhood and how he ends up going on this journey to Kenya to kind of discover his father's side of the family. I found out information in this that I didn't know about him. Like, I had no idea that he spent a little bit of his childhood in Indonesia. No idea. He went to a level of schooling through there. New fact for me. But you get his whole story, and I did really enjoy it. I do not rate memoirs, because I feel like I'm rating the person's life story, and I don't want to do that. There's very rare exceptions where I will actually rate a memoir, and it's because it was mind-blowing, you know. And I think he wrote this really well, guys. I know he has since released other books that he's written, and I would be interested in reading those, but yes, I think this was really nice. This obviously was before, like I said, he was president. You only get at the end Michelle's mentioned, so this really is his story before he met Michelle as well, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and recommend. Glad that I picked this up. Then the last book that I read, or I should say attempted to read in November, was The Other Hand by Chris Cleave. Now this, as you can see, there's still a bookmark in this, and that's because I DNF'd it. I decided last night, 30th of November, I was like, this ain't it. This was another self-destruct book, guys, so you know, 4 in 1 month I think is really good. There's still 6 to go if I want to at least attempt them before, you know, they self-destruct. But this, okay, I'm gonna read the synopsis on the back and then we will get into my thoughts. We don't want to tell you what happens in this book. It's truly a special story and we don't want to spoil it. Nevertheless, you need to know enough to buy it, so we'll just say this. This is a story of 2 women. Their lives collide one fateful day and one of them has to make a terrible choice. 2 years later, they meet again. The story starts there. Once you've read it, you'll want to tell your friends about it. When you do, please don't tell them what happens either. The magic is in how it folds. So first of all, that is setting up to, we don't want to say anything to ruin it for you, but this story is so amazing, like you have to read it. Like I was expecting mind-blowing, epic writing, you know, a truly great story on top of that. In here, there's like a letter from the editor, again, basically reiterating that this is extraordinary. Naturally, as publishers, we only publish books we love, but every now and then something comes along that's so special, it just gives us goosebumps. You know, I'm gonna go through the whole thing, but the whole point is the way that the synopsis and that letter from the editor just makes it seem like it is going to be absolutely amazing and incredible. And you know, I got to page 105, which I think was 28% of the way through. I'm sure it said, yeah, I got through 28%. So at that point, to me, when you get to like a quarter of the way through, you should really have been pulled into the story at that point. The characters in this, I wasn't really connecting with them. There was one character in particular, Sarah, that I wasn't connecting with her. Also, I have to say, and I have to mention this, that this should come with trigger warnings. It's not something that personally affected me, but when I was reading some of that, I was like, this is a bit much, like, you know, a bit intense. So first of all, within these pages that I read, there is a suicide, and then another character does discuss in detail suicidal thoughts of them thinking of potential ways of killing themselves. Now I don't know on that second point if the author wasn't trying to be super serious about it, but I just thought it was quite detailed, and that should come with warnings for that bit. The thing is, for me to talk about this a little bit more, I'm gonna have to give you a little bit of details about the story, which apparently they don't want you to know. So if you're bothered by that, just skip ahead, guys. I'm not actually going to spoil the story because I don't know how this ends. But basically, one of the characters, Little B, she's a Nigerian girl, and she's come to the UK and she's ended up in a refugee detention centre. And I think she ends up spending about 2 years. Now, she ended up coming after she met Sarah and her husband in Nigeria, and something happened on that fateful day on that beach, which I don't know what happened. Guys, I don't know what happened. Yes, so you get a little bit about her being in a detention centre, and then her when these other refugee girls get released. First of all, I find that there's a lot of stereotyping in this, and I don't know what it was. I just didn't connect with them, and I don't know if it's because at this point I don't feel like we'd gotten enough backstory yet. You only got bits and pieces, and I don't know, I hadn't connected yet. I think it does cover off important topics because the system isn't good in the UK for refugees, and how she was put in this detention centre, although at this stage I don't know exactly how she ended up there and exactly what happened, but it's not a great place to be in, and I assume that the author did thorough research into that topic to be able to actually write about it. But yes, like I said, we follow the point where she got released, and I feel like it wasn't connecting to it. Sarah the wife, I wasn't connecting to her. I don't know what it is, I can't put my finger on it, but I wasn't really connecting to these stories and these characters, so I ended up DNFing. Who knows, I might try and give it another go before February, but most likely this is going to be on hold. Also, this cover just doesn't really do anything for me, and I think this is why it took me so long to pick it up, because one, I didn't actually know what it was about, and this cover just doesn't really tell me anything either, although I assume this is supposed to be that beach on that fateful day of whatever happened, and something bad happened, but I just feel like it got mentioned quite a few times. That's the thing, that's been mentioned a few times, and you're like, I'm so early into it that's obviously going to be the whole point of this book, but I just feel like you've mentioned it too many times, and I just feel like I'm going to be disappointed by it. And that's that. The thing is with this one, okay, as you can see, it was shortlisted for a Costa novel back in 2008. Now, I have never seen anyone actually speak about this, but on Goodreads, guys, there are 235,621 ratings, so it is a highly rated book. Like, a lot of people put ratings, and there's like 21,898 written reviews, with an average of 3.72 stars. So a lot of people have read this, and I feel like that's a lot of ratings, but I've never heard anyone speak about it. Just to put in comparison, let's look up A Little Life. Now, I did notice though on Goodreads that this also goes by Little B, which is, like I said, one of the characters' names, and other times it's called Other Hands. I don't know why there's two names floating about. But in comparison, for example, Little Life is 399,160 ratings, 61,881 reviews with 4.3 average. To compare the two, because I always hear people speak about Little Life, and I know it's like well over 100,000 more people have actually rated it. There's still a large portion of people, and the fact that I've never heard anyone speak about this one is really, really odd, considering how highly rated it is on Goodreads. But that's it. I don't have anything else to say. That was all the books that I read and attempted to read in November. We're now in December, guys, and yes, from this you should realise that I am doing Vlogmas, so check out my other videos. Hit subscribe if you don't want to miss anything, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Leave me a comment, let me know if you've read any of these, hit that like button, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.